Now, my question is here. I'm on the video.
Hey, look at you, even wearing a
See if we get
mask.
the light a little better here. Not much better.
There's only so much light and makeup can do, Jack.
Well, if
You
we get
guys
Jack,
ready to start?
yeah, I mean, if we get Jack a bigger mask, we don't have to worry about the lighting.
That's all right. The reason I'm wearing this mask is just as I tuned into you guys, I got a notice that my computer had a virus. I figured it was bullshit, except that I identified the virus as clap. And I've already had that so many times that I figured I'd put the mask on. It's a BMW mask, which means that the filters for it are $400 each. I'm just going to take this off.
Well, my question, Jack, is, I mean, how many times you had clap on the face?
There was a time when it ran around 6 times a week, but that's not lately. How are you guys doing?
Good, Jack. Do you mind if I start the show and read your bio, because I don't want to miss anything?
You go right ahead.
All yours.
Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Fuel Stop Chats. I'm Chris.
I'm James.
And with us tonight is our distinguished guest, Jack Riepe. And I'm going to read his bio because I figure anybody that takes the time to write one deserves to have it read. Am I right, Jack?
Be my guest.
All right. So, author, speaker, humorist, Jack Riepe began his writing career as a political publicist. And I believe that was the Lincoln election, right? You were the political publicist, a position he held until he no longer cast a reflection in a mirror. Riepe moved on to corporate public relations, specializing in business travel issues for international trade associations. He became associate publisher of Business Travel Executive magazine in 1988, introducing a humor column to an industry that never laughed. And that's true. As a business traveler, I can tell you. Riepe wrote Politically Correct Cigar Smoking for Social Terrorists in 1998, a collection of short stories and essays defining this social ritual and redefining male sensitivity. It was followed 13 years later by Conversations with a Motorcycle, the author's account of his first years in the saddle, again going back to rigid frames and flat leather seats. A legitimate coming-of-age novel, Conversations, was initially embraced by the BMW riding community, especially K-bike riders. There's a K-bike right there. James has one in the background.
Would you guys borrow them for tonight or what?
What's that?
Do you guys borrow them for tonight or what?
Everything
no.
is just, it's a screenshot behind me. None of this is real.
It's all live. Motorcycles Speak Louder Than Words in 2017, the second volume in Riepe's Moto trilogy, followed 5 years later. More of a companion book than a sequel, Motorcycles Speak delves deeper into Riepe's deviant moto lifestyle, releasing the sexual skeletons from his closet. The Forbidden Alex chapters drew broad acclaim. So Riepe's third and final moto book for this set is The Motorcycle Rider's Diet. Now 3 years late, it's been mauled by political correctness, stalled by illness, physical and mental, and plagued by controversy. This book focuses on his later BMW years as a freedom fighter for the secret K-bike revolution, yet is laced with flashbacks from his Kawasaki youth. Kawasaki starts with a K, so he's really always been a K-bike guy. Chapters that were banned by church groups from his earlier books. So you won't definitely look forward to that book. Riepe is a columnist for the MOA, that's the Motorcycle Owners Association for you non-BMW folks. And their magazine is called Owner News, or ON, because we love acronyms, where his work is stuck in the back of each issue with the ads for pre-chewed food and moto seats that hide rigor mortis. He's a frequent speaker at motorcycle rallies and claims to vacation in the South American Witness Protection Program. Future books he has planned: The Adventures of Stewie, the Whorehouse Parrot, and Pontius Pilate's Diary. Jack, welcome to the show tonight. How are you feeling?
Good, I'm all right.
We we are so fortunate to have you here. I did get a notice from Great Falls, Montana, that the mayor of Great Falls, Montana is extremely disappointed that you're not going to be attending the rally. Would you like to expound on that a little bit?
Let me tell you something. I've been looking forward to this rally for 2 years, but I've been struck with a malady that prevents me from going out in public. And the alternative was to go down to the Brazilian Witness Protection Program, where they have a job for me. I'm a piano player in a Brazilian bordello, but they don't really have a piano, which is good because I can't play one. I just hand out towels and make change. Let me tell you something. I love politicians like mayors, and I love towns like Great Falls. And I am really sorry I can't be there. If there was any way I could be there, I'd be there with a drink in my hand tonight. We'll catch him next year.
Do you have any special message for your friends at the rally?
Oh, let me tell you something. There's a few people. I'd like to thank Sue Rinn for everything she did for me. And of course, I got to shout out Larry Rittlinger. Larry Rittlinger is my right-hand man and my roadie. I'm going to terribly miss him. And then, of course, there's Peter Burke. Peter Burke was riding a motorcycle in a sidecar with a beautiful dog. He's riding all the way from Vermont to the West Coast and then up to Great Falls. You got to see his bike. His bike is really special. And the sidecar has a canopy on it, a windshield. And the window is open on the passenger side, but it's also open on the driver's side. And I couldn't figure that out. Then I realized the dog is reading the map and giving Peter the directions.
The dog is the navigator. I had the chance to run into Peter at a motorcycle stop and see that phenomenal bike. And now the mystery of the windows is solved.
Let me tell you something. I first met Peter at Lebanon, and I was at my booth, and he pointed me out to the dog and said, "Piss on that booth." And the dog did. I tell you something, you got to respect that in an animal.
Well, I think you're talking about Lebanon, Tennessee, not Lebanon.
Lebanon, Tennessee.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference there.
I know you
That's a long
travel
ride.
extensively, so I just wanted our listeners to know the difference. So listen, Jack, I know that you're the secret mouthpiece of the Secret K-Bike Club. So we're all dying to hear, what do you think really about our bikes? Now, be careful because there's one sitting right there. So
I know. It's giving me a case of the fan thoughts. I got to honestly tell you something. I like our bikes. You cannot have the word Teutonic and iconic in the same line without having an R bike there. The R bike is absolutely beautiful. And if you are going to steampunk a bike, nothing lends itself to steampunking or streamlining like an R bike. Whether you dress it up with boiler piping or whether you strip it down, it is a cool looking machine. And that's important because looks is all it's got. On the other hand, all right, you wonder why most our bike riders are retired. Well, you got to have a lot of time for an R bike. You can't be in a hurry to get any place.
Was that what the
I
R
mean-
is for?
Well,
Retired?
I'm going to tell you this about the R bike. The R bike requires real skill. Most people don't know that. I do not have the skill to ride an R bike. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't work the clutch, work the shifter, and shovel coal at the same time. That is a true art. All right. And these guys do it. They do it with their eyes closed because they're all half asleep. I tell you something, I love R bikes. But I tell you, the R bike has given me purpose in life.
What's that purpose?
Yeah.
I lead the guerrilla movement of the Secret K Club. You show up at a rally, any rally, a local rally, a major rally. I mean, you think if you want to see a K bike, it's like you have to go to a speakeasy and speak through the trap door. All right. These R bike guys think they run the world. I mean, it's R bike here, R bike there. You look at the magazine. I counted Out of 172 motorcycles in the last issue of the Owner's News, 2 of them were R bikes. Sorry, 2 of them were K bikes. And they were marked as R bikes by mistake. All right. But I will give you this. You cannot steampunk a K bike. You cannot take a K bike. You cannot strip it down. You cannot put valves and steam pipes on it. They just look stupid. And let's face it, the K bike looks stupid enough right from the start. Do you know that BMW hires blind engineers to work on the K bike? Blind engineers, and it gives them unlisted phone numbers, so they can't talk to each other either. Okay, you take a look at the newest K1600. It's got a nuclear reactor. The bike is designed by gods. Okay, no one understands how it works. It's ride by wire. You turn the throttle and golden cables to heaven move the cadmium rods in and out of the reactor. And it just, without vibration, accelerates to 2,000 or 3,000 miles an hour. I mean, this is a remarkable machine. And look what they did to it. They packaged it in something that looks like a 1984 Buick. All right. That big stupid vent on the side. What does that do? I mean, it should have one big eyeball that blinks in it when you look at it. I mean, I can't believe it. They got the engine from NASA and they got the body parts from Sears. I mean, this is incredible. And then they design that other thing, the bat cycle. All right. Where, I mean, unless you're wearing a Batman suit, you look perfectly, the bagger, you look perfectly silly on it. All right. They should design that K1600 to look like what it is, the threshold of the universe for the next 4,000 years. And you know something? They should build them to last, because no one can ride them unless you have a job. All right.
Well,
Every now and again,
I was going to say, I thought they did build them to last. That's why you got to bring it in every 1,500 miles to get a $5,000 service.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. But they move it behind a curtain so you can't see what's being done to it. All right. I think it's remarkable. I love BMW. I love BMW. I love BMW motorcycles, and I love the BMW culture. I even love the BMW R bike riders. The R bike riders have this incredible back to nature approach. Are you guys familiar with the R bike rider from Maine, Steve Pelletier?
No.
He rides from one end of the country to the other on his GS, plowing farmers' fields. All right, he gets it up to its top speed of about 13 miles an hour, and he goes through these fields, and he just gets all these soybean plants all planted and harvested. The only time that man has ever failed in his mission. Are you familiar with David Peterson, the inventor of the cycle pump?
Yeah.
David Peterson also invented a handlebar mounted manure spreader, all right, specifically for GS motorcycles. Now, it has one drawback. If you're doing 13 miles an hour, it tends to blow back over the seat, but he's working on that.
So,
all right. But Steve Pelletier is one of these guys. They are responsible for farming America from one end to the other. The GS is the finest agricultural motorcycle to ever come out of Germany.
So is this the reason why you formed the Secret Bike Club? Or
the reason I formed the Secret K Club is to give our riders a voice. I mean, for years, K bike riders slunk in the shadows. People would say, "What kind of a bike you have?" You say, "I have a K bike." And like you keep your voice down low. What kind of a bike do you have? I have a K bike. All right. And it was assumed that there was something wrong with you that you had a K bike. But those days are over. The K bike is mechanically superior. It was built with a proper cooling system. I mean, let's take a look at the history of the R bike. It started out as oil heads. Started out as airheads. Then it went to the oil heads. Then it went to water cooled. So then it became fish heads. All right. Under the circumstances, the K bike was always designed with a proper cooling system. It was always designed to start at 78 miles an hour. I mean, this is the machine. It never vibrated. All right. You only check the oil as a ritual. I had a K75 that you'd put 4 quarts of oil into it. And at the end of the summer, you'd open up the plug on the bottom and ice cream would come out. All right. Pure vanilla. Exactly 4 quarts. It never used an ounce. I mean, this is just mechanical perfection. I started the Secret K Club so people would understand this, and to understand that the time had come for K-bike riders to take charge.
Learning history is something taught in school. Experiencing history is a right seldom exercised. Either experiencing the American Civil War by walking its battlefields and touching the soil where blood was shed, or experiencing musical history from the studios where the lyrical touchstone was created and recorded, the textile of history should be experienced firsthand. Participants in this journey should be riding a motorcycle from historical location to historical location so that the environment can wash through them in the open air. Ride History provides an intimate, educated, and personal experience guiding its riders through history on the freedom of 2 wheels. Check out www.ridehistory.com for available tours of the Gettysburg Battlefield, or ride through America's entry into the Industrial Revolution on the Oilfield Tour. The Knox Tour from Fort Ticonderoga to Boston, or the 8-day Rhythm Tour, starting in Atlanta and hitting Nashville, Memphis, Muscle Shoals, Jackson, and New Orleans. Ride through American history at ridehistory.com.
I love it. I love it. So listen, obviously there's vast differences between the R and K bikes. Are there vast differences between the R bike riders and the K bike riders?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. R bike riders are all about mileage. All right. They get together and they all talk about miles, how many miles their bikes have. I tried an experiment one year at a local rally. I got an R bike that had 500,000 miles on it. And I got 6 Victoria's Secret models to pose in their underwear around the motorcycle. And one by one, our bike riders would come over and look at the mileage on the bike's odometer and want their picture taken, not with the models, but with the motorcycle. Eventually, 10 of them were there all at one time, and they asked the models to get out of the way. All right, so they could all be photographed with a bike that had a 500,000 miles on it. All right, now in the K-bike circle, those models wouldn't have been there 15 minutes. All right. The other thing is, you got to understand something. K-bike guys, K-bike riders, men and women, are about flash. Our bike riders are all about distance. K-bike riders are about speed. I met 3 R bike riders who looked me right in the eye and said, "We rode to this rally from Tierra del Fuego." And I met a K-bike rider who said, "I also came from Tierra del Fuego about an hour ago, but I had to stop for lunch." All right. Now, this is the difference. And the other thing is, the cultures are really widely different. The R bike guys, they're very down to earth. They are the Amish of all motorcycle riders. The K bike guys are the astronauts. And they also have different mating rituals, which is interesting. I have studied this at great length.
I'm afraid.
This is the mating call of the R bike rider. Women sometimes come from yards around to see what's making that noise. And then, of course, initially they think it's coming from their bike. Then they realize, where the source is. The mating call for the K-bike rider is a little different. It starts with a device like this. Now you have to prime it first. I have a priming tool right here. What I'm doing is I'm putting in exactly.
Is that a stainless steel shaker that you're putting together there?
I'm gonna hold this right up to the minute so everybody can see what I got.
For the people that can't watch it.
I'm gonna, for the people who can't watch it, I forgot that we're doing radio for the R-bike riders. All right, here we go. This is the mating call of the K-bike rider. You do this for a couple of seconds, and the most incredibly beautiful women will come from as far away from 10 miles. But the thing is, you got to dispense it. And I recommend this. I am holding up stainless steel stemware. It sounds like this. Do not ask
is this where James
stemware
Bond
tolls. It tolls for thee.
Is this how James Bond came up with the shaken, not stirred?
James Bond rides a K-bike.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. That answers everything.
Now I'd like to show you. You pour this into the stainless steel glass. And just like your cigar smoke is dissipating, you let this aroma dissipate. And then you got to swat them off like flies.
But I mean, some of your closest friends are R-bike riders, are they not?
Yes, there's no accounting for taste.
Oh, okay, well.
Let me tell you something. R-bike riders are a dedicated group of people. Steve Pelletier is a friend of mine. Peter Burke is a friend of mine. One of my closest sponsors and friends is my good friend, the guy who invented the cycle pump, who's known as Pufferfish Peterson. Pufferfish is an interesting guy. It's difficult to get close to him. He's half human, half fish. And when he gets upset, his gill slits rustle and he inflates. All of these people bring something to the table, albeit at 20 miles an hour. K-bike guys, I got some K-bike friends too. My oldest K-bike riding buddy, actually, I have a handful of them. Larry Rittlinger is the best, okay? When you go someplace with Larry, he takes a map out. And instead of giving you mileage, he gives you time. I will meet you in the next century on a Tuesday, and then he's gone in a cloud of smoke, okay? And you meet him there about 12 seconds later. All right, I love riding with K-bike guys. But I got to tell you something. I'm the lousiest motorcycle rider in the world. I am a writer who rides. Most people are writers who attempt to write books. My two closest K-bike riding friends were Pete Buckheit and Clyde Jacobs. Pete had a 2004 K1200, the sportier model, which meant that the seat was really uncomfortable. And Clyde had a 2005 K1200 GT. And his seat was perfectly comfortable. The pegs were uncomfortable. And both of these guys we used to ride together. We used to ride specifically throughout West Virginia, and riding with these guys were great. For the first couple of miles, I could see them ahead and we'd wave at each other. Then at the next couple of miles, I could hear them. And then I might run into them 2 days later. It was very reassuring for me to know that if I got in trouble, if I needed help, it was only 200 miles ahead of me, someplace on the road. These guys were just really cool. On this one day, we were riding up to Cherokee Rocks. You been to Cherokee Rocks in West Virginia?
I have not.
I've been to Seneca Rocks.
Yeah.
Seneca Rocks, that's it, I'm sorry. Seneca Rocks is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And we were riding in West Virginia, and these guys were slightly ahead of me. And then they were far ahead of me. And then I just gave up on it and figured I'd meet them at Seneca Rocks. Be all right. And about an hour later, I got passed by a blue K1200 and a red K1200. And I said, those bastards didn't even wave. They just went by me in the opposite direction. So I turned my K75 around and I chased them for an hour. When they finally pulled over, it wasn't Pete or Clyde. It were two perfect strangers that I chased for an hour. And because they were BMW riders, they smiled and spit on me and went on their way. All right. So I turned around, and by the time I got to Seneca Rocks, there was Pete and Clyde. Clyde was playing chess with death, and Pete had rotated the tires on his bike 5 times, waiting for me to get there. All right. I got to tell you something. You ride with your friends because the adventure never ends. I rented cabins just below Seneca Rocks. And the fact is, in the town of Cabins, the unincorporated town of Cabins, West Virginia. I'd never been there. I rented the cabin sight unseen. Clyde and I were riding down. You know how the days usually go in the summertime headed to West Virginia. The temperature was 12,000 degrees. Iron would melt in your pocket. It had taken us 3 times longer to get there. And when we stopped, my GPS was beeping and said we were there. There was nothing there. There was no cabin. There was nothing. And Clyde said, where is the cabin? I said, I don't know. Clyde said, who rented it? I said, I did. And Clyde said, well, where is it? I said, I don't know. I've never been here before. And Clyde hadn't met Pete. And Clyde said, there's a guy wearing an Aero-Stitch suit waving a martini at us from the woods. I said, that's Pete. The cabin's probably over there. The whole weekend was like this. I mean, and I got to tell you something. I wish I could show everybody the pictures from that trip. God, was that a beautiful trip. That was just a beautiful trip.
I love riding down there. For me, it's a day trip to get down to Harrisonburg and run 33 over to Seneca Rocks, and then down to Tazewell and Marion for the back of the Dragon. It's a beautiful guy weekend kind of thing.
You know what I like? I like these little cabins. They're right on this river. It might even be the Potomac, or it's either the Potomac or the Possum River or the Possum Fritter River, whatever the hell they are. I mean, it's really rural down there. I'm going to take my hat off. This is my secret K Club Colonel hat. I got to tell you something. I've had more fun riding with BMW riders because they're all a little peculiar. They all have a story. And if you ride with 5K bikes that are all the same, they're all different. They will all start a trifle differently. They will all make a slightly different noise. And they will all have a running peculiarity. All right. And there's nothing like it. But the thing that usually happens, because they're BMWs, they almost always start and run flawlessly. All right. I was on a trip with a guy who had a brand new Harley. And it was blowing fuses every other time he started it. And it wasn't just blowing a regular fuse. It was blowing like a 700 amp fuse, okay? It was the kind of fuse the Cyclone roller coaster uses, all right? And it got to the point we were riding from Napa store to Napa store, buying every like 700 amp fuse they had. And when the bike would either start or make a champagne popping noise. And they eventually found out the 3rd or 4th time back to the dealer, they found out a wire had rubbed itself raw against the frame of the bike behind some chrome fitting. I said, what does the fitting do? The guy said, nothing, it's just chrome. Okay. So there you go. BMW parts always do something. All right. There's a part on a K75 that costs $3,000. Okay. What it does is, well, it's secret, but it's very important, whatever it is. And if you look up in the manual, it says, don't touch this, take this to the dealer. When I got my first
every part.
K70, when I got my, you guys do your own work?
No.
Smart move.
I do,
right.
I do wrench on the blue R75.
Well, I mean, it only has 3 parts. I mean, how hard can
Right.
it be?
Simple. I don't mess with the 1600.
I changed the battery on a K75 one time, and it ended up involving at least 16 people. Okay. They start out with the battery and they build the frame around it. We eventually had a seance and raised the ghost of Houdini, and he got that battery out of the motorcycle. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But you cannot beat BMW riders. And they always have sage advice. I was pulled over with Horst Oberst, and an R bike rider rode up, and his bike was making a very strange noise. And the rider looked up and he said, "What does that sound like to you?" And Horst looked him right in the eye and said, $1,500 at the dealer.
That's true.
It is.
It's about right.
That's so true. So Jack, what do you have planned for the future?
Well, my future is very basic. First of all, we're going to take the Secret K Club to new heights. There's a 3rd book that I have in the wings. It's going to be a multimedia book. It involves a character I invented called, her last name is Berlinger, Brittany Berlinger. She rides a K1300, and her specialty is corporate espionage. All right, and that book is going to involve heavy illustration. It's going to involve a lot of cartoon work. It may actually involve color illustration too. It's going to be something that we haven't seen in a long time. It's really going to take the writer someplace else. And the other thing is, I have entered the gray area now. My body has been letting me down for the last 40 years, but right now it's really working at overtime. And what I'm going to do is, this is my last resort. I had planned to do this summer. It's not going to happen this summer. COVID did not work to my advantage. Next year, I'm going to get a K1300. It's going to be my signature bike. It may spend six months in the shop getting the Riepe treatment. Special lights, special seat, all kinds of special stuff, right? Special wiring, a special sound system. And I intend to beat this body into a last stand. I intend to get a girlfriend who's 25 years younger than me, and I am going to ride from Seaside Heights, New Jersey to Big Sur, California. I am going to camp on a beach next to my motorcycle where I can hear the surf and see redwood trees. And I am going to get laid on a beach. And the next day, I don't care if I get eaten by giant radioactive spiders. I just don't care. And I want to ride a motorcycle that when I make my first really critical mistakes, when the cops phone home, they're going to say, "We've never seen a motorcycle that left 1,500 feet of skid marks before." All right. You can put him in a 1-gallon paint can. It's going to be fine. That's what I want. Well, my publishers have different ideas. They asked me, they said, most of your friends have grandchildren now. Why don't you write a kid's book? And I said, no. And they said, write a kid's book. And I said, no. And they said, you're under contract to write a kid's book. I said, no. They said, unless you submit a contract, unless you submit a prospectus for a kid's book, you're in breach of contract. And I thought, okay. And I did. I did this the night before their annual meeting where they had a focus group with like 200 people. And I submitted my book, The Adventures of Stewie the Whorehouse Parrot. And I said, you have no problem getting libraries to read this to 5-year-olds. They were really mad. And they could have sold 200 of those books that afternoon. So now they're holding my feet to the fire. I got to write this book about Stewie the whorehouse parrot. I look at it this way: for research, I got to get a parrot and move into a whorehouse. How hard would that be?
Well, you could incorporate that into your Brazilian witness protection program where you're
It's
playing
not
the
a
piano.
problem. It's not a problem. I got to
Right.
tell you something. I love writing for BMW guys. And that was just the beginning. I hear from Harley guys. I hear from the guys who ride Jap bikes. I hear from the guys who ride Moto Guzzi's. This has been the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm sorry I didn't do this 40 years ago. But this is really great. I want to thank you guys for this opportunity. Let's hope we can get people interested.
Well, I want to go back. I want to go back to one thing, Jack. I mean, you'd said that you want to find a girl that's have a girlfriend that's about 25 years younger than you that wants to ride across country. I mean, I don't know any 60-year-old women that want to ride that far.
Buddy, ye of such little faith. God gave some men great bodies. He gave other men great smiles. He gave me a line of bullshit longer than the long runway at Newark Airport. I got to tell you something. I got a secret weapon that works every time for me. It is the battered baby seal look. Right? I can make myself look like a battered harp seal, and women just say, okay, and they get on the back. Now, I haven't had to do this in a while, but I'm going to give it a shot. Right? I'm going to ride past the 2 garages where you guys are living in and honk the horn. I'll be on a K1300, so you'll have exactly 1/2 of a nanosecond to see me. Right?
Oh, thanks so much.
Oh, man.
For hopping on here tonight, Jack, and entertaining us and entertaining our listeners. It's been wonderful having you, and hopefully we can have you back again soon.
I got to tell you guys something. It's the first time I've done this in 1.5 years, and I'm a little edgy on it. I like you to think that this Negroni is the very first drink I had prior to this presentation.
I think we
But
all
I'd be lying. I started at about 2 o'clock thinking, I don't want to flub my lines, and I have flubbed them all. All right.
You've been great, Jack. We've been talking about this for a while, and I think you should be a regular. I think there should be like a monthly guest appearance by Jack Riepe to come on and give us another nugget of knowledge.
I mean, just like Andy Rooney on 60 Minutes, we'll sit you down with a typewriter next to you, and you can just gripe about our bikes.
I got to tell you something. I started out on a typewriter, and the day I went to a computer, I thought it doesn't get any better than this. And then I had a secretary who could type. I tell you, it got a lot better right off the bat. I got to tell you guys, this has been a lot of fun tonight. And I got to get used to this one-on-one business with 2 guys. And I'm thrilled.
That does not sound good. We're going to edit that one out. We're
editing that
out.
We're cutting that out. No one-on-one with 2 guys stuff. You got to stop. It's like, what?
Usually when I speak, there's about 600 people in the room. All right. And this is different. I'm talking to 2 guys and 5 motorcycles. And most of these motorcycles look like rolling artwork as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I see a Harley Davidson in the background over there.
Oh, I tried to hide that.
What are you doing? Speculating in chrome or what? Right?
All precious metals, baby.
All right, boys.
I don't know what James has got in his garage over there.
What
is it?
My 1600.
Okay.
I have a KTM, but of course, like all KTMs, it's in the shop. So, all right, we got to wrap it up.
Boys, this is fun. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Jack, so much. I appreciate it, man.
I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.
All right.
All right.
Chris,
Adios.
Rider out.